But it was the first time in so long that I felt respected.
A fucking red flag.
Well, he was like, aren't you all too familiar with this?
Okay. All right, boys. So we have Steffi here. StephySquats.
StephySquats.
StephySquats, Steffi Socials. Stephenie, what's your full name?
Stephenie Yuan.
For everyone. Stephenie Yuan.
Yuan.
For everyone who doesn't know Stephenie, Stephenie is one of my good friends and also a WBFF Pro, and she's got an amazing physique on her. I don't even know how.
Thank you.
But
I'm a great coach.
She works. She works. Yeah, she works, and her coach is honestly a genius.
Mm-hmm.
I've never worked with him, but I've heard of him before I even met you. So yeah, Bret Contreras, the butt guy, the glute guy. We just wanted to talk about some things today, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about your WBF journey, and also wanted to delve deep a little bit on some interesting topics in the fitness space. And I know that things such as like PEDs also are prevalent in a lot of competing. So I wanted to ask you if you knew any stories about that as well. And then she and Stephenie and I were thinking about, like, we haven't really talked about relationships before. I'm definitely curious what your mindset and your input is on that.
I love talking about relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm so interested because I feel like whenever I have discussions with my friends and it's a group of guys and girls, we just like love bouncing back and forth between like, oh, well, what do you think? What are your experiences like? So I love talking about that stuff.
Okay, we'll talk about it for sure. Your transformation, I thought, was like pretty phenomenal. I low-key, I have a little confession. I actually scrolled through your page a little bit earlier this week, and I didn't even realize, like, I think you posted one recently as well, like a reel of like you back before you started breaking out, and then you now, and it's fucking mind-blowing.
Before I started breaking out?
Working out.
Oh, working out.
Yeah.
I have this whole story about breaking out too, but yeah. But before I started working
how long was that transformation? That's freaking insane. Like, I'm definitely going to put that in the thumbnail because I'm like genuinely impressed by that myself.
Thank you. Well, I started working out. I started learning how to lift when I lived in Shanghai during college because I like grew up half in the US, half in China. But I didn't start really getting into it until around like lifting seriously until a year and a half ago when I met Bret. And Bret kind of took me under his wing and started training me. And then before that, I think I just started getting into lifting just in 2020 because I had broken up with my ex-boyfriend. And
isn't that how it always works though?
It's it's always a post-breakup glow up. And it was, I think it was 2020. And I needed a goal because the gyms were closed. And I had always wanted to be like this advanced pole dancer. And to be an advanced pole dancer, you have to be strong. And you have to be able to do a lot of upper body stuff. And so I was like, what's the best place to start? And I had this pull-up bar that I bought online. It was like a $15 pull-up bar that I randomly found on like Dick's Goods and bought for $15. And it was always just sitting in the back of my closet. So then during COVID, I was like, I'm going to do a pull-up challenge and I'm going to post it every day on Instagram and get all my friends involved and tag them and maybe they'll do the challenge too. So then I just started doing pull-ups every day with bad form. I started from like 3, I think, and then slowly worked my way up to 10 eventually, like through posting every day. And I was just so consistent because there was nothing, I couldn't go to the gym,
Yeah.
And then
How long did that take?
The pull-ups?
Yeah, from 3 to 10.
Probably like 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, I was like, okay, I did my 10 pull-ups. I'm going to do a different exercise. So I started doing pistol squats because my friend was like, okay, let's think of a different exercise. Have you ever tried pistol squats? And I just tried it. And she was like, oh my God, that looks so easy for you. And I was like, wow, maybe I am good at this. So I started working from like 1 pistol squat to 10 pistol squats. And in between that journey, when I was posting on Instagram, I discovered Bret's, like, he had like this 12-week booty building program. And I just started doing that. Then I joined Gold's Gym eventually. And then I started tagging him. And then he responded to me with voice messages, giving me tips on like what my form should look like for my pistol squats and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's messaging me, because I've always watched his content. I've like used his booty building 12-week program. So he's like this idol to me. And I was just so surprised that he has, over 1 million followers, and he was taking the time to give me advice. And I wasn't even like a serious lifter. So then that's kind of how it started. And then me and Bret kept in touch I think we talked in like April, and then he invited me to the Glute Lab in like August or September. And since then we've built this, like, he's like a coach. He's definitely coach number one, but he's also like one of my best friends now. Like, I call him every day. We talk every day about my training, first of all, and then we talk about life, and he's like a mentor to me. And he took me under his wing, and my body completely transformed because I started focusing more on my performance and less on, am I losing the weight, like weighing myself and seeing if my abs are showing. Like, I stopped caring about that stuff because I was so focused on my performance goals. Like, how much can I hip thrust? How much can I squat? And learning all the strong lifting techniques, which is like his sport, which includes those like 6 main lifts.
It's crazy when you start really putting yourself into the mindset of performance, how it kind of overcompensates and takes over you building the physique that you want in the first place anyways. I mean, given that you're not training differently for what your goals are, say that like you're training in powerlifting or Olympic lifting when really you want to like build a bodybuilder type physique. In the end, if you're going to the gym with the mindset of performance, I find that still breeds the physique that you want. And honestly, in putting in that energy in the gym, I feel like you expend any excess energy or calories or whatever that you're trying to avoid eating anyways if you're trying to stay lean. So.
Yeah, I think I don't think I really I don't think I really believed in all the myths, but I also didn't know what the alternative was. Like, I knew that there's no way that you have to do an hour of cardio a day to like look a certain way. But I also didn't know, okay, how should I be training instead? Because there's so much information online. There are so many YouTubers, so many things you see on social media that I think as a beginner lifter, it's so hard to know what to do. And so when Bret kind of slowly introduced his methodology to me, I just fell in love with it because I realized it's sustainable. Like, I could do this for life instead of feeling like I have to stick to something for 3 months, but I hate it, and then find something else to do, but not really know what to do. So I think, like that mindset shift from switching from wanting to lose weight and wanting to look lean and wanting to look toned to I want to get strong in all these lifts. I want to be, and also for me, because I love dancing, I pole dance, flexibility and mobility are all super important to me. So I focus more on like being an athlete rather than just looking like an athlete.
It's crazy too. Now you can do like flips on the pole and shit too. Insane. And you can even do like 3 pull-ups before.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
I know.
It's nuts.
It's kind of crazy because when I was in my early 20s, I told myself, I was like, okay, I know at some point I'm going to turn 30. So I want to know that I became the person I wanted to be. And that to me means like, I want to compete in bodybuilding at some point. I want to compete in pole dancing and become an advanced pole dancer. I also want to be a badass in my career. And I knew that in my early 20s. So whenever I decided to pursue a passion, I was like, I'm 100% committed because no one's going to tell me to do this. And I don't want to end up at 30 and wish that I did the things that I wanted to do and didn't do in fear of judgment or whatever it is. So I was thinking about it recently because I was reflecting, because I'm turning 30 this year. And I was reflecting on how I actually wrote a self-compassion letter because I have a life coach, and it was one of our activities. And he had me write a self-compassion letter. So like, dear Stephenie, da da da. And one of the things that came out was I was just like, wow, I'm so proud of you for who you are today, because like that, early 20s, you, the one who had a lot of acne, was dealing with cystic acne, the one who I think was like overcoming a lot of things like with family, and kind of faced all of that adversity and had to learn to be super independent really young. Like, you'd be so proud of yourself for who you are today. And I just like had a moment where I just was kind of just really proud of myself for just sticking to the things that I've wanted to do, and like I think getting to where I am today. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what gave you like that inspiration to start, that told yourself that, you wanted to be in bodybuilding, you wanted to compete in pole dancing? Like, what was that initial thing that like gave you that inspiration to do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually didn't know I wanted to do bodybuilding until later, but it all kind of started from when I was in college. And I think I was like 19. And I've always grown up I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was younger. I loved beauty. I loved makeup. I was a very like girly girl. And I also did ballet when I was younger. So I always loved that type of thing. And then when I was 19, suddenly I had really, really bad acne. Like it was cystic acne. Something was going on. It wasn't just mild acne. Like it started from my forehead over a summer. And then when I went back to Shanghai, it spread all the way to like right under my eyes and to like my chin and the sides. And it was just so scary because I was so into beauty and I loved doing makeup and I didn't even want to leave my house. And I didn't really have family around at the time. So I was in college by myself. And I remember one time I went into a store. It was a convenience store. And I mustered up the courage to like finally leave my house and go out and buy something and be like, whatever, I'm not going to care. This is all temporary. And people in China are like kind of brutally honest. It's just the culture. It's not because they mean to be malicious. But I went into a store and I was going to buy something at the beauty counter. And this lady who works there, she's like an auntie. She was like, wow, you would look so pretty if you just didn't have acne. And I was like,
Damn.
I know. And it was so brutally honest. And it made me want to retreat into this shell. So I didn't want to leave my house. Like a year before that, I had studied abroad in Germany and I went couch surfing, super random. But my couch surfing host had 2 poles in her house. And I was like, what are those? And she's like, oh, I'm a pole dance instructor. And so when I was back in Shanghai scrolling through Instagram, I saw a pole dancer and I was like, this is so beautiful. It's so graceful. Like it wasn't the stripping that you would typically associate pole dancing with, but it looked like ballet and that really resonated with me. So then I impulsively was like, I'm going to learn how to pole dance because I don't have to leave my house. I could stay fit and it's something I can learn from YouTube because I saw there was just one girl, her name is Dirty Birdie, and she would post tutorials on YouTube. And so I started learning pole dancing from YouTube. And then when I moved back to the US, it was just always a dream of mine to compete in pole dancing. I just wanted to keep leveling up. And I felt like if I didn't compete, it would be really hard for me to have a goal to work towards and like really advance my skills. So that's how I got into pole competitions. But then bodybuilding came later because I was at Gold's Gym just working on my pull-ups and doing squats and deadlifts, like whatever I knew at the time. I hadn't met Bret. And someone came up to me at the gym and was like, hey, like your back is really developed. Are you a bodybuilder? And I had never considered myself a bodybuilder. I was like, no, I actually don't know what I'm doing. But I try to stick to the main lifts. Like I do my pull-ups, I do squats and deadlifts, but I've never had a structured program. I've also never followed a meal plan. And so he was like, well, I'll write you one. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, I'll do it for free. And I was like, wow, that's really, really nice. And he was a big bodybuilder and he looked like he looked like he knew what he was doing. So then, he gave me a program for a month and I wanted to show him respect. So I was like, wow, he's not charging me. I really should take advantage of this opportunity. And like, if I don't stick to it, it's actually disrespectful because he took time to write it for me. So then I stuck to it for a month and like, I just started seeing my body change because I had never done like a high volume kind of like hypertrophy program before and stuck to macros. I had never used MyFitnessPal or tracked anything. So making that switch like really made a change in a month. And that's how I started getting a little bit more into it. And then things just kind of fell into place. Like I'd never thought I would compete in bodybuilding. But after I met Bret, I started seeing my body change. And then some of the girls competed in WBFF. And the opportunity just came up and he he was like, oh, would you want to compete in WBFF? And I was like, I guess, yeah. I mean, if I have the opportunity to compete with Bret coaching me, there's no reason I should say no. Like, this is such a big opportunity. Yeah, because there are thousands of girls who would love to train with him. So I went for it.
That's beautiful. And honestly, that's a blessing that you have a coach like that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of coaches out there that are honestly dog shit. I feel bad saying that, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coaches that are dog shit and give a lot of their clients literally no attention. And without the attention, if they don't care about you, then the shit that they're going to give you is probably not exactly what you need. You know, they're probably not even really thinking about what you really truly need. And, you know, part of it might be cookie cutter. So, because all these coaches just want to prioritize their best athletes, so then they can post those best athletes to promote their page. And it fucking sucks. It's ridiculous. So
yeah. It's so interesting because Bret has this really unique position of being the glute guy. You know, he's like the inventor of the hip thrust. He trains around 30 clients, like one-on-one, and is texting us all the time, calling us all the time. Like, we're best friends. We're like a group of really close friends. And he knows everything about my life. Like, I tell him when I'm getting my period. I tell him when I'm stressed with work. And he considers all of those things when giving me my program. I got a thumb injury, and he helps me train around that. So he knows so much about my life. Like, he's not just a coach. Like, he's like a friend and a mentor. And I feel like that's what makes training with him so sustainable, because he's not like under whatever circumstances, this is exactly what you have to do. Like, he really knows my life and my lifestyle, what works for me. And so it makes, like, I see him as my coach for life, you know, which is a really cool feeling. And it's kind of crazy to me that he's my coach. Like, when I was early 20s, I still idolize him, you know. He's still, to me, like the expert in glute building, just like the best coach in the world. And I feel so honored that he wants to train me.
How many days are you out of your next WBFF show?
So the show is on the 27th. So I think I'm like 3 weeks out.
3 weeks out.
Yeah.
Shit.
I know.
Crazy.
I know.
Closing in.
I know. We were just talking about this because so I hadn't decided I wanted to compete until around 2 weeks ago.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I thought, oh, well, there's a show in LA. Maybe I'll do it. But I was so focused on my strong lifting competition.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, that's a strength training competition. So I did that. And then we were like, okay, let's think about it later. And then 2 weeks ago, I was like, Bret, so are we doing this or not? Because if we're going to do it, I have to tell my friends so they can get their flights. They can make sure they set out the dates. And he was like, well, if you want to do it. And I was like, I mean, we have like 5-6 weeks. Do you think we can really prep within that amount of time? And he's like, trust, Steph, trust, you can do it. And so once we decided, I was like, okay, I'm committing to this. And I think over the last 2.5 weeks, I've lost 5 pounds, which is insane to me. Yeah. But I think having gone through one prep with him, it helped a lot. Like, I think normally at the end of like I had a 16-week prep. This time it's a 6-week prep. But last year I buckled down like the last 4 weeks. So this year I know a lot more about nutrition. I know what works for me. So I'm learning how to prep within a shorter amount of time. Also, I'm going to be in Florida for 10 days to train with Bret with the best equipment. Like, I'm going to get really good rest and stuff. So I'm really excited. And I think one of the reasons I can prep later is I don't take an off season. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still training really hard, even when I'm not prepping for the show. So I have the luxury of having a shorter prep. And then on top of that, another aspect of WBFF is the posing. And I think a big challenge for a lot of girls is posing and practicing posing, because they can feel uncomfortable if they're not used to being on stage or they feel self-conscious. But I love performing. I love dancing. So posing is like one of my favorite aspects of WBFF.
You're 100% a performer.
You think?
Every single festival we go to, you find a pole to perform in.
I know, no pole is safe.
All the cops just watch, take videos.
I remember in Vegas, at Excess, they don't normally allow people to pole dance on the public poles. But I just went up to the security guard. I was like, can I dance on there? And then he was like, yeah.
Your energy is contagious.
Thanks.
All right. Wow. Well, that's kind of phenomenal. And honestly, insane that you're making such a quick transformation needed in time for your competition. But I ain't got no doubt that you're going to kill it.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thanks.
So going back a little bit to your experience with acne, how did you overcome that mentally? And then also, how did you just overcome that issue, period?
Yeah. Well, I took like low dose Accutane because I tried everything else, you know, like, oh man, I remember, the experiences that I went through having acne are things that are like etched in my mind forever. I remember one of my best friends at the time, she like had one pimple and I was like, hey, like it'll go away. And she's like, yeah, at least it's not like yours.
Jesus Christ.
I was like, ouch.
Damn.
Or like someone else had come up to me and was like, he wasn't a good friend, but he was like making fun of me and he was like, oh, connect the dots.
Oh my God.
Isn't that so mean?
That's fucked up.
I know, so fucked up. So mean. Like now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm glad I turned out okay.
Is that what you think about now when you go to the gym? Just the guy who told me to connect the dots on my face. I'm gonna fucking hip thrust you into the universe.
I know, right? I mean, sometimes I'm just like, I think people, when they meet me, they just assume a lot of things. They're like, oh, you're so this, you're so fit, you're so, you know, they give me all these compliments. And I'm like, it's taken a while to get here. But yeah, so I took like low dose Accutane for that. And then eventually it went away. Dealing with the scars was tough too, but that eventually went away. And then I think it really cleared up over like the last 3-4 years. But I think emotionally, I've always been resilient, I think, because I've had some experiences growing up where I had to learn how to be really independent. And people ask me like, how are you such a hard worker, or are you just high functioning in all these aspects of your life? But I think it's because when I was in high school, I was going through a lot of things like with family. And I had this one teacher, and he's actually still in my life. His name is Mr. Richards, and he was my teacher for this elective class. And that elective class was all about basically teaching you how to be a good person, like how to be empathetic, how to be compassionate and stuff, things that you wouldn't normally learn in school. And he was one of the adults that really believed in me when I was younger. When I was going through all this stuff with family, he like cared, and he would always give me these affirmations. Like he'd be like, wow, Steph, you're so great. You're so magnetic. You have such a great personality. And I think when you have people telling you these things, you start to associate it with your identity. And so that helped get me through some really hard times. And then I think it carried through like everything else that I did in life. Like when I had struggles or whatever at home, or, you know, I had just a lot of struggles at home. I feel like I never really victimized myself. I always was like, okay, how can I prove to myself that I can overcome these things? And I think that shows up in a lot of aspects of my life. Like with pole dancing, I'm like, okay, if I want to be good at pole dancing, like I want to be the best. So up level my skill set with pole dancing. With bodybuilding, I don't want to just, dabble in it. I want to be good at it. So compete in WBFF. With work, when I started in a sales job at Yelp, and I had like a 36K base living in San Francisco, sharing a room for $13.60. And at the time I was like, oh my gosh, this is great, because I just came from Shanghai and I didn't realize I was making no money. But it was a sales job and it was uncapped commission. And I had never made less than 6 figures because I was like, I'm going to work the hardest. And so even at Yelp, like I developed this brand because I spoke Mandarin. And so all the salespeople would they would send me their Mandarin leads and we would split the credit. So I'd make them money. They'd make me money. So I feel like with every opportunity, I kind of find these like pockets of opportunity to excel and like really do my best. So I think I've just always had a strong work ethic, but it started from like that teacher believing in me and like telling me this is the type of person that you are.
Okay, so how did you differentiate between that teacher that said that he believed in you and then those people that would, you know, make comments about your acne that, you know, were obviously in a very hurtful way?
Yeah. How do I differentiate?
Yeah. So how did you handle those situations differently? Because, you know, way that, you know, you absorb some words, that's easy to absorb the rest. Yeah.
I think with people who weren't the kindest or, you know, would make passive aggressive comments, but say that they're your friend. I think I still struggle with that sometimes. I've had a few experiences where people have said things and they're very judgmental, but they say it as like, oh, I'm just trying to help you. I'm just trying to make sure other people don't perceive you negatively. And I think over time I've realized like a lot of what people do and say is not because of you. It's because of what's going on internally or how they view themselves. And so once I came to that realization, I don't take it personally anymore. And I have enough friends at this point in my life where I know what a healthy relationship and what a healthy friendship looks like. And I really notice when someone shows up for me in the most critical moments. Like for this prep, I have some friends who are like, Steph, like, I still want to see you. How can I fit into your schedule? And they'll be like, oh, I'll come to do cardio with you. And then I have other friends who are like, oh yeah, you just ghost your friends when you don't, or you just ghost your friends when you compete and then you reintegrate once you're done crushing your goals. I know, it's weird. So I see the contrast. And I think unless I had friends that were like my close group of friends like that, it would be actually really hard for me to see what's wrong with this other type of friend.
Right.
So yeah, I think at this point, I'm more sure of myself. Like I know what I'm about. I know I bring good energy. I know I'm a hard worker, and whoever wants to come with me, cool. And if you don't and you're not about it, then bye.
Nice. Yeah. There's too much stress and too many things to deal with in this life to have friends that don't support you.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not worth it.
So what was your peak week like the first time you competed as a WBFF? What was your peak week experience?
My peak week. So my peak week was a lot of just trying to relax.
Yeah.
Oh, and also try to PR on my chin up, because when you're light, your chin ups are like easier. So I was like, I want to get this 50-pound chin up.
It's an interesting peak week.
Yeah.
Did Bret put you through any peak week protocol?
No, I just train, not that I know of or noticed, but I just train the same way that I normally would. So we're still lifting it really heavy. We're still doing the main lifts like hip thrust, squats, deadlifts, military press, chin-ups, bench press. But a really big key was relaxing. And so during my peak week, I went to Bret's house, and he has a gym in his garage. It's his Las Vegas house. It's one of my favorite places to be because it's just so relaxing. He has like a hot tub, a pool, a steam room.
Oh, that's fire.
Yeah. And so I went to peak week with, I think there were like 2 other girls competing. And so we all stayed at his place, and it was just so nice to have like to train at the same place, then you could just chill at the same place. We'd watch movies. We'd be in this nice controlled environment where like, you know, everyone's pretty much on the same page. We're not bringing around crazy food that would be tempting. So yeah, that was my peak week. It was just training hard and then relaxing, and also just trying to get some steps in on his place. But it wasn't super different from what I would normally do.
So did he do any like changes in your like macros or in your diet, like through say like the last several days or anything? Anything at all? Like he didn't like dip your carbs down a little bit or like give you more carbs before the show day?
I think he did give me more carbs before the show day. I think, yeah, the day before he was like, oh yeah, you can have however many more carbs. So I just ate that in rice cakes. But I think actually what I love about training with Bret is it's not like, we don't do anything crazy. We're not like, don't drink any water or eat all these carbs right before.
Right.
The training is very similar to what I would normally do. And we don't take any PEDs. Like all of his girls are natural, including me. Like we've never even actually really talked about it. And yeah, so like to me, prepping for a show is really not that different from just how I normally train, other than cutting my calories and adding cardio, which I love.
I think that's why that's what's so different for females versus males, especially those on PEDs that are competing. When you're not on PEDs, your body can't take, especially hormonally, all the changes that those that are doing like pro bodybuilding competitions where everyone is on PEDs, like those protocols for those peak weeks, like the severe dehydration, you know, the carb deload and then carb load. A lot of these things that they're taking is what's allowing them to absorb these carbohydrates as glycogen. And so I find that these drastic changes in like peak week are not something that people should ever really be doing for natural athletes. And at least it's been seen, the science seems to show that it's more optimal for natural athletes to have a much more moderate peak week and keep everything consistent towards the end. And I think this is especially true for females, especially since females can have the most variable change in their weight, in their water weight, and in their hormones.
Yeah. I think also there's a difference between WBFF and NPC and IFBB. Because
there's a huge change.
Yeah, like huge if difference. I were to compete in NPC or IFBB, I don't know if I'd place as a natural athlete, you know, because that look is so different. Whereas for WBFF, it's not just about your physique. Also, the physique is a little bit like, it's just fuller than for IFBB and NPC. So, and then the other aspect of WBFF, it's not just about your physique, it's about your stage presence and it's about your fashion and all these other things that they evaluate you on. So I think it's just very different. But yeah, we've never needed to do any of that for WBFF. And I think that's why Bret likes coaching for WBFF. But he has coached for other federations before too.
I honestly love the WBFF.
You do?
I think it's such a cool federation. Yeah, I originally wanted to compete in it at first when I started bodybuilding, but I was always inspired by Arnold and the rest of the competitive bodybuilders from that age. So I wanted to compete in the same federation.
Yeah.
But
you would kill it though.
Thanks. Thanks. I mean, if I did that, I would wish that I stayed natty, but I can't go back anymore. So sad.
I feel like it's too late.
It's too late. You're 2 for life, bros. But what was I talking about? Something about, what was I saying?
Yeah, like peak week?
Yeah, peak week. So yeah, like NPC IFBB versus the WBFF. NPC and IFBB require such a drastically more dehydrated and leaner physique. And then they try to carb up and fill that out. But I think, especially for women, honestly, I'm sure a lot of people will agree. When it comes to like sex appeal and aesthetics, the WBFF just makes more sense for females since it's an actually like healthy, still a healthy body. You know, you guys aren't so depleted to the point of, you know, like very potentially dying.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've never lost my period when I've competed for WBFF, right? Like around peak week. I feel like what I've heard is like with NPC and IFBB, some girls will lose their period.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't happened to me. It does get lighter, but nothing drastic. And I think this is important because if I want to keep competing, it needs to be sustainable for me. And like, let's say I want to have kids or I want to start a family or something. That to me is more of a priority than winning shows. But I love competing and I hope I can do it like even after I have kids, you know? So I think realistically, this federation is a better fit for me. Plus, I love performing.
Yeah.
I love dancing.
It's definitely a lot more of a performance type of competition for sure.
It's fun. It's like so much fun to be on stage, you know, because you can just improvise. You can make things up. You can flirt. You can,
yeah.
There's so many things that you can do. Whereas I think IFBB and NBC are a lot more like you have a routine and you need you have some personality, but the poses are pretty much the same. Whereas with WBFF, you can make something up, something that they've never seen before. And I think that's like my forte. Ah,
that's cool. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that for sure. Yeah, you're right. The IFBB and the NPC have particular poses that you must do in order for them to compare properly.
Yeah.
There is some variants where they allow you to have your own kind of transitions and stuff, you know, to add to the whole stage presence criteria. But in the end, it's a lot more strict when it comes to the posing and everything.
Yeah.
They do still say that you want to essentially turn on the judges and, you know, stare into their fucking soul. But definitely not the same kind of energy that I feel from the WBFF.
Yeah. Plus, I think when I think about it, I'm like, wow, WBFF is like the perfect organization for me because it incorporates bodybuilding, it incorporates dance and performance in some ways. It also incorporates just like personality. And then there's one other thing. Oh yeah, and fashion. And I used to want to be a fashion designer. So I actually like designed my bikini last year.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was like tassels here.
That was a fucking sparkly bikini.
I loved it. Thanks. It's like glamorous. And when I think about it, yeah, it does cost quite a bit to compete in WBFF because you have the stage photos, you have beauty, hair, and makeup, you have the videos, registration, the stage dress. Like it's not cheap to compete.
It does cost a lot for bikini as well, or it does cost a lot for female athletes in IFBB as well, but I'm sure
it's like a couple thousand, right?
Yeah.
A few thousand. But when I look at the photos and the videos, I'm like, wow, I can show this to my grandkids someday.
Yeah.
You know, it's all worth it. Like you're only going to be doing this so many times. And I want to be able to show my future generations that like your mama's cool.
I wish WBFF was more popular, honestly.
Yeah.
But the way the world is, everyone just wants to see the extreme.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's why I forgot what I was going to say, but literally every sport ever, you know?
Yeah. I get that. I think, yeah. And I don't really know like the NPC and IFBB world as much, but I feel like unless you dedicate your entire life to it, it's really hard to get to the top. And also I don't know like what all the rewards are together. Cause for WBFF, there's no like monetary incentive, right? There's no like, you get a $10,000 prize if you earn a title or anything. It literally is just like, you're helping them build the brand. You're representing the brand. You're doing it because you want to.
Even the WBFF champion doesn't get anything?
Not that I know of.
Oh, shit.
Not that I know of.
Wow.
Don't quote me.
I mean, the IFBB really hardly pays its winners at all, but still, even at least Mr. Olympia like makes something, you know.
What do they make?
I can tell you, I don't remember. I feel like Mr. Olympia makes like 50K or something like that in classic.
Oh,
And then I think the Mr. Olympia, like the Mr. Olympia of all bodybuilding, I think he actually makes at least 100 to a couple 100,000 maybe.
oh, I see.
Which is nice, but that's number one in the entire world.
Right.
Right.
In the entire
world, and for 1 year, you know.
Yeah, it's gonna be you.
I'm working for it.
Trust.
Hopefully.
I believe you.
Thanks. Did you hear any like stories of any girls in the WBFF potentially doing like PEDs or anything? Or do you have any knowledge?
Never heard of anyone doing PEDs. I know. Actually, I don't know. I assume there are some girls who do. Maybe not necessarily in bikini, because the bikini look is like just like not as
crazy.
Just not as crazy,
Right.
not as muscular. Maybe in fitness, but not anyone that I personally know of or have heard of. Have you?
In WBFF? No, I don't really know much about the WBFF, so not that I know of. In the IFBB, of course, but
I would
still
assume,
part of the game.
I would assume everyone in IFBB would, but I don't know.
I've heard that there are some bikini athletes that are able to get their pro card and haven't taken things, and I'm sure there's potential for bikini athletes up there not that haven't, but it is also very common for some bikini athletes to at least take NFR, something small, you know.
Yeah.
You can like sprinkle something in there, and then you can take a PCT, and you can be okay afterwards if you do everything correctly.
Yeah.
But you know, you still technically took a drug, right?
Yeah.
Like you can take Molly for like 2 days, go to a festival, and then never have taken it ever again, but you still experienced it once.
Right. It's so funny. Like I'm so far removed from all that I barely know anything about. I only know the names. I don't know what they do. I don't know how often you should be taking them or the dosages or anything, because I've just never been involved in that. And I think because maybe it's more prevalent in IFBB and I'm not like, involved in the IFBB federation, like it's just not something that I'm familiar with at all.
It's crazy. It's a whole world. You don't need
I know.
to be.
It's like I'm in the bodybuilding world, but then I'm not like doing any of that. But I know there's this one athlete. She's amazing. She's one of Paul Ravella's clients. I think her name is Daraja. She's a natural athlete. Her genetics are amazing. She works so hard. So I know like there are natural athletes in IFBB that are female. But yeah, I don't know anyone who would. Yeah, I don't know anyone in WBFF who does that.
Do you remember what your macros were for like your peak, or not for your peak? Do you remember what like your macros were for your first prep?
Yeah, I think it was around 1,200, similar to what I'm doing right
1,200
now.
calories. Yeah.
Maybe I dropped it to like.
Tall are you, and how much do you weigh?
I'm 5'1", and right now I'm 113 pounds.
Okay, to put this into perspective, so you naturally built a beautiful stage physique off of 1,200 calories. I, both naturally and both on PEDs, had to drop to 1,200 calories. The same calories as you in order to get my stage physique.
That is so
for my last 9 shows.
That is so
1,200 calories. That's how extreme the IFBB is.
Wow.
To get yourself to like that last like sub 5% body fat if you can.
That is
you got to fucking push to like. I don't know how true this is, but I'm pretty sure Chris Bumstead himself is, I think, on sub 1,600 calories. And that guy's huge. That guy's huge. Massive. I have no clue how tall or how much he weighs, but
yeah. I do wonder what I would look like if I did IFBB. And I feel like if I did do it, I would fully commit to it.
I believe
I'd be
you.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'd get competitive with myself, but I'm not that curious.
It's probably better not to. Anyways.
You know, like I still want to enjoy my life. I still want to. I think for me, a priority is also pole dancing once my thumb heals, being able to pole dance and stuff like that. So I think I have other priorities other than, getting that lean. But I am sometimes curious. But I think I'm curious to the point where I would compete for WBFF and see how I could get that lean, but not any more than that. I think the lowest body fat percent, I think last year when I competed, I was around 11% body fat. Yeah, I think around 11%. And I had dropped to like 106 the day of.
That's really low for a female.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think I dropped
Your
10
abs look
pounds.
insane.
And for that.
On those stage, those stage pics. Your abs look so crazy.
I actually felt bloated when I was on stage, but like the day before.
Maybe it was all the rice cakes.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Yeah. That's the hard part when you're competing. If you have to carb up a lot, especially for the guys that have to eat a lot of carbs and a lot of rice. So that's why a lot of the biggest bodybuilders will have that gut on stage. It's part of the reason. It's just that force feeding. And then your digestion slows down too. Yeah. Especially on certain PEDs. Yeah. Yeah. And then you just end up with a gut. And it's like kind of takes away from the whole maintaining a small waist and good proportions. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. I think for WBFF too, because they're not comparing physiques like side by side, like looking at your glute ham ton and things like that. I feel like when I get on stage, all I'm thinking about is having fun. I'm not thinking,
that's awesome.
What do they look like compared to me? Yeah. Da, da, da. I'm just on there and I'm like, okay, I know I tried my hardest. I know I did everything to a T that my coach recommended. I did all my cardio. I trained hard. I posed every day. Like I did everything that I could do. Now I'm just going to have fun because there's nothing else that I could do on stage that would change the outcome, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just going to have fun, and it doesn't matter to me like what the other girls look like. And if anything, for me, I see it as like an experience together. Like we're a bunch of badass women who decided to compete for whatever reason. Like everyone has a story. And like, that's so cool that we're all on stage, like, walking confidently and fully expressing ourselves. Cause I realized myself that one of my values is being fully emotionally expressed. And I feel like whenever I dance, whenever I'm on stage, I feel like I'm emotionally expressed. Like I feel like those are like my peak life moments, is like when I am performing and I'm just fully expressing myself kind of unapologetically and letting things flow. That's when I feel the happiest. So I think WBFF is like one of the ways that gives me this like stage, literally a stage to like express myself.
What about pole dancing?
Pole dancing, love of my life. I think pole dancing, just because I know kind of how I got into pole dancing, it has a lot more meaning to me than just looking sexy. Like I know it takes a lot of strength, grace, flexibility. I know why I started pole dancing. So, and I remember like, I remember when I couldn't climb a pole. I remember when I couldn't even lift myself up and I was still just like walking around, spinning around the pole for months. So like, I know how far I've come, and every time I get on the pole, it's like liberating, because I used to have to think a lot about, what move I'm going to do next. But now I can string together moves because I know a lot more. I'm more advanced. So I'm just like, sometimes when I'm sad, when I was going through that breakup, I was listening to sad songs and dancing. And every time I'd finish, I'd feel so much better because I feel like I got my emotions out. And then even when I'm really happy and I'm like excited or whatever, I'll play an upbeat song and I'll just dance on the pole and flip my hair and twirl around. Yeah. And I'll feel, even though it's like physically really demanding, I'll feel more energized. So I also love, what I realize is I love teaching pole too in some ways, because I get to see, a lot of girls or guys too, like they'll try pole dancing. They'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I can't do it. But then I'll teach them something and I'll be like, okay, I'll teach them the technique, and then they'll be able to do it. And they'll be like, oh my God, I didn't realize I could do that. And they'll take that energy into other aspects of their life. And they'll be like, whoa, I learned something that I didn't think I could do. And I love that like light bulb moment when they believe in themselves a little bit more. I actually like that about WBFF posing too, because a lot of girls are like, oh, I can't look as sexy or as graceful as you. And I'm like, yeah, you can. Okay, let's work on the walk. Okay, and then we'll like shoulders back, chest up, chin up, and then like walk, right? And initially their walk will look really awkward. And then I give them a few tips and they walk more gracefully and more sexy. And they're like, oh my God, like I didn't know I could look like that. And it just makes me so happy to like see people realize that they can do something they didn't think they could do. And I think a lot of women, like they want to feel feminine, and posing and learning how to create lines with your body, like it makes them feel more in their feminine and more like in their element. And I think when you're in your element, you can do anything, anything that you decide to do.
So you have a crazy leg and glute, like insane leg and glute transformation.
Thanks.
Can you spill the program?
Yeah. So I never really had a butt. And then when I met Bret and I started focusing more on compound lifts, especially the hip thrust, I started seeing like crazy glute growth. I also started prioritizing protein. So like macros and nutrition was a big part of it too. But in terms of programming, I focus on the 6 main lifts. So it's the hip thrust. So it's a hip thrust, squat, deadlift, and then for upper body, military press, bench press, and chin-ups, and like weighted chin-ups. So I have 3 lower body days a week, and I have 2 upper body days a week. For my lower body days, I'll have 1 like thrust hinge pattern. I'll have 1 squat pattern, and I'll have 1 like thrust. So typically, like for Monday, for example, my first leg day, I'll do like heavy hip thrusts, and then I'll do, I don't know, like some kind of squat pattern maybe. And then I'll do all these like accessories. Like I love kickbacks. I love 45-degree hypers. I love hip abductions. Those like I feel like really built my glutes too, outside of hip thrusting. And then maybe my next lower body day will be like heavy squats and then RDLs and something else like that. But the programming is actually pretty simple. But I think it's really like it just focuses on those 6 main lifts with some accessory exercises. And then I would say like right now, because I'm focused a little bit more on hypertrophy, I have like rep ranges from like maybe like 8 to 15. Yeah, but it's nothing crazy. When I was doing strong lifting, I was doing lower rep ranges because I was trying to hit 1 rep maxes. But now I'm focusing more on like bodybuilding for the show. So yeah, and it's super sustainable for me. Like I look forward to my workouts number one, it's therapy, but also it's like I really look forward to them because I see myself getting stronger. I'm using progressive overload and it's fun. Like they're not any movements that I hate doing. And if I did, Bret would help adjust it to something that I actually really like. So I would say the keys are focusing on those 6 main lifts and then also progressive overload. So I'm tracking all my weights. I'm seeing how I'm trending on a weekly basis, and yeah, I never thought I could lift the weight that I can.
That's so sick. It's so underrated, the progressive overload. But everyone, it's just so hard to do. Like everyone's like, it's just so hard to write it down in a notebook. It's just fucking. It's hard for people to like just write that shit down. But little do you know, you write that shit down and you just know it. You just remember what you're doing. You don't fucking remember. It's on the page, but like writing that down mentally, that puts it in your brain. Like, oh, okay, I lifted this much.
Yeah.
And then the next time you go in the gym, you lift a little bit more. You now have a quantifiable amount of your progress. You've now quantified your progress. And if you're performing better, then your body is going to compensate and improve to perform better. And it's just so simple for us to just write that shit down on a fucking notebook. And nobody wants to do it.
Yeah, well, I use Trainerize. And because I'm not the type of person who likes to bring around a small notebook. Bret is, he's very old school, like around a small notebook. And
I can't even I can't write in a notebook. I have to put it in my phone. I have to.
I used to use Excel, but Trainerize, like it shows you what your 1 rep max was. It shows you what your max volume was or whatever. It shows you how many workouts you've done. And it gives you all these substitutions too. If you don't want to do this certain exercise, or like I was injured, so instead of doing like a barbell something, I'll do a machine, like a modified version of it. And Trainerize just makes it really easy. Because I'm definitely not the type of person to write things down.
Yeah, it's so hard.
But it's just like, it helps you become more competitive with yourself. Because I'm like, because like I said, like strength is really important to me. So if I want to get stronger, like I want to beat me last week.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's like, you know, it's so cool to be able to like see that, oh, before I met Bret, I was hip thrusting 185 pounds. Now I'm hip thrusting 465.
Right. That's literally the definition of gains, is beating you from last week.
Yeah.
So if you don't record your stuff and you don't beat what you did last week, then you're not going to get any better.
Yeah.
Like, what better way to beat yourself last week than to actually write it down and then beat yourself last week?
Yeah. I think it's just confusing for people. Like, they don't know what programs to do. They don't know how to eat. They don't know how to track. Yeah, just so much. So, but I do think progressive overload is like the key. Like, no matter what you're doing, but there are certain exercises you can't really progressively overload on. You know, like cable kickbacks or something. Like, are you going to keep adding 5 pounds every week? Probably not, you know?
you still can. You still can to an extent.
You
can just try to do, exactly. You can do it through your tempo. You can try to add just one rep.
Yeah.
Even just one rep in one of the sets.
Yeah.
That's still more volume than last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can always find a way.
Different ways to progressively overload.
But it starts getting a little bit more complicated, a little bit more annoying.
Yeah. That's why it's like so fun to progressively overload those like main compound lifts, because you see that progress so quickly.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's the easiest way.
Yeah.
Just stick to the main compounds and progressive overload those.
Yeah. I wish more women learned how to lift heavy. You know, like strong lifting does that, but I just wish more women weren't scared of lifting weights. But I think it takes people like showcasing, hey, you can lift weights and still look feminine. And, you know, I think people think they want to get toned, but in reality, they just want to build muscle and lose fat. But I don't think there's enough like education and examples of that, because social media also is like so deceiving. A lot of people only post when they look lean, you know? So it's like, I get why a lot of women are scared to lose weight. I get why a lot of women are scared to lift weight, but I think it's one of the things that like, I wish I knew earlier. I wish I started lifting weights when I was freaking 18.
Yeah.
You know, because my butt would be way bigger.
For all the girls out there, the key to get the most shredded, sexy body that you want, the beach body that you want, lift heavy, eat a lot of protein.
Yeah.
Lift heavy, eat a lot of protein.
Yeah. Exactly. It's as simple, and track your weights.
The one thing to avoid, don't do a lot of heavy volume on deadlifts as a girl. That's probably the one thing that they probably want to avoid, right? Because doing a lot of heavy volume on deadlifts or doing a lot of heavy volume on Olympic lifts, that's probably going to get your core to start growing in size. But you can lift very heavy in deadlifts without a lot of volume, and you'll just basically be powerlifting and gain a lot of strength.
Yeah. And do hip thrusts.
And then also for all those people who want to, make gains in the gym and track their progress, but are too lazy to like say put it on a notebook and progressive overload by writing it in a notebook, use the Strong app that came out, I think recently. The Strong app will actually record your previous volume and make sure that you're doing the volume the next week. So if you hit something and you didn't make your volume, the Strong app will tell you have like this little much more to hit your volume for the week. Yeah. So it'll give you a little note of like, this is how you're going to get better.
I didn't know.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
I downloaded the app and I still don't use it.
I only use Trainerize. I have a friend who just came out with an app. He just came out with an app too that's supposed to help with like, I think they use like AI to create programs based off of your progress.
Whoa.
I know. It's the future. You don't even need a coach anymore. Bye, Bret. I'm just kidding.
But just hire ChatGPT as my coach. How many carbs do I eat?
Dude, I bet that's going to happen.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I think...
I tried asking ChatGPT how much tren I should take, and it was like, I'm not allowed to tell you this information.
I asked ChatGPT everything. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I asked ChatGPT, not that I was going through this, but I was just curious to see what it would say. I was like, write me a sad breakup letter. Write me a sad breakup letter expressing not deep regret, but sadness. And then it wrote this like 3-paragraph breakup letter, and it was so good. And then I was like, make it more casual, and it made it so much more casual. And I was like, this is insane. Like, how are you going to know what someone is actually saying versus what, like how someone actually feels versus what the computer says? And how are you going to know what's real or not? But I think people are always going to want that human interaction and that human element. People also said that like they think AI will replace sales. But I think they were saying how like people are always going to want, like if they're closing a big deal or purchasing something, they're going to want to talk to someone. But who knows? I don't know. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Also, I just wanted to clarify from earlier, for all the women out there that wanted to get toned and lean and muscular in all the right places, it's as simple as lifting extra heavy and eating enough protein, from anywhere from 0.8 to 1.2 times your weight in protein, preferably 1.2 if you can, especially if you're in a calorie deficit, and maybe just a little portion control if you're someone who happens to be able to gain weight easily. I think it's literally as simple as that.
Yeah.
If you would like to help fund the podcast, which would mean the absolute world, you can buy yourself something from Young LA or Huge Supplements, which are my sponsors. And if you use code Nyle for 15% off, it'll also help contribute to the funds for my podcast. You'll never know your data until you experiment.
Yeah.
You'll never know your numbers until you just do it.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I realized this prep is it's just a science experiment.
Yeah.
Like
it is.
I cut my calories, I added cardio in, and I'm losing weight now. Like it literally is like input, output. There's no guesswork. But the hardest part is just the discipline. But it actually isn't that hard when you decide I'm going to do this. There's nothing stopping me.
I think what makes it hard for people is the guesswork, is because a lot of people are guessing instead of just writing it down.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like they're so confused by everything. So they're like, oh, am I doing the right thing? And then when they eat something, they feel guilty. But you don't actually have to feel that way if you're tracking everything.
Yeah. It can definitely feel overwhelming, though, in the beginning. Just got to start, though.
Yeah.
So now I'm curious. Tell me a little bit about your breakup.
I hope he's not watching this. Whatever.
So, bro.
So my breakup was almost 3 years ago at this. Actually, it was almost exactly 3 years ago at this point. I can't believe I've been single for 3 years.
Oh my God.
I know. It's crazy.
We're celebrating the breakup.
I know. Wee.
Hope he's watching.
So my breakup happened around 3 years ago, but it was kind of a long time coming. Probably 6. Actually, I should have not dated this person a month into getting to know him. But I was young and kind of naive at that time. So I learned a lot about myself over that entire relationship, which is around 2.5 years. And that relationship was one of the most impactful relationships I've ever had. And I think that's also one of the reasons I'm not in a relationship now, is I feel like I know a lot more of what I want and what I will accept and how I want someone to add value to my life. And I won't accept any less.
Nice. So we're not in a relationship, Steph?
Me?
This is hurting.
What?
My heart's broken right now.
I mean.
So what happened exactly? What made him
Yeah.
Like, why do you say that exactly? Why is that the reason that you're not right now? What essentially wasn't what in the relationship happened that made you feel like you need to do things for yourself right now?
Oh man. It's good. We're going way back. So when I had met him on a dating app, and I was in San Francisco. He lived in Bellevue, actually, at the time, in Washington State. And he was visiting for work, and then we met, and there was like instant chemistry, and we talked for like an entire month. And then he came back to San Francisco and visited, and at that time, he told me, oh, yeah, by the way, I have a girlfriend.
Yo, you didn't think that was a red flag already immediately?
Okay, well, also, we talked every day for like an hour. So I was like so head over heels over him, you know?
Steph.
I know.
If he has a girlfriend, it's a fucking red flag.
Well, he was like, well, I have a girlfriend, but I'm polyamorous. And I was like, whoa, what's polyamorous? Aren't you all too familiar with this? But it's different from your experience, okay? Because like, to my understanding, ethical non-monogamy is like where you're radically upfront and transparent. That was definitely not the case.
Okay.
And so
like he probably didn't tell his girl that he was talking to you as well.
I mean, he said he did, but I honestly don't know.
I see.
I mean, he probably was like, oh, yeah, I'm dating people, but he didn't tell her to what extent he was involved with other people. And at the time, I was just so attached to him already within 1 month because we talked every day. Like, I felt so connected to him. And I walked away at that point. I literally just picked up my stuff and I left. I was like, bye. Like, you have a girlfriend, and it doesn't matter that he had a girlfriend, but it's the fact that he didn't tell me up front.
Up front, yeah. Right.
Omitting information, that's lying.
Coming from my point of view, having been in his position, it is very, very hard to bring that up in front, especially when you have so much chemistry with someone. Yeah. But you just gotta do it.
You gotta do it.
At least I just had to do it. Yeah. And honestly, like, it would make my fucking, I would clutch my butthole every time I had to. But there's just, I feel no, there's no, like, the transparency is everything. Like, if I feel like I'm doing it behind a curtain or I'm doing something fake, like, it doesn't fulfill me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this girl doesn't truly love me for everything that I am right now.
Yeah.
But, you know,
yeah. I mean,
some dudes get a little scared, you know? They have that little, some dudes, some people, like everyone tends to have some sort of, what is it called? What is it called? Anxiety with, why can't I think of the word right now? I'm so sorry.
Not a vice. It's like a, I don't know, flaw, like a weakness.
Well,
I know what you're talking about. It's like I think, honestly, if I don't know if I would have kept talking to him if he had told me up front, but I liked him a lot. So I would have at least been open to understanding what that was, because I had never had anyone tell me they were polyamorous before. So, and I'm super open to hearing about different perspectives. Like, he never wanted to get married, and I always thought that I did. So I just started having conversations with anyone and everyone. Like, I'd talk to Uber drivers and I would ask them, like, oh, what's your experience with marriage? Actually, this total side note, but one time someone told me, he was like, you know, my divorce with my wife was more painful than my parents' own death. And I was like, whoa.
That's crazy.
I know. But I was just like, I was just so open to hearing different people's perspectives, because that's just how I grew up. Like, I know a lot of different types of people. I feel like I can connect with people of different backgrounds, just having lived internationally. So I'm open-minded. But
that just tells me that person was closer to his wife than he ever was to his family or to his parents. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just are so far from family, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you always see eye to eye.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas, you know, you could have the closest relationship with your wife and she's gone from your life forever, and it's almost like a piece of your entire life is just broken.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it just, to me, meant like, you know, like marriage or divorce can be really, really painful. And I don't think of those things when I am thinking, oh, I want to have a family and get married. So it really made me reconsider, like, oh, do I want to get married? Why do I want to get married? So I think having someone who had a different perspective made me think about why I do the things that I do. So it was, like I said, it taught me a lot about myself. Yeah, I don't know if I would have been with him still if he had told me up front. But throughout that whole relationship, there were so many highs in that we would travel together. We would do Spartan races together. There were always these new experiences. He was very like engineering mindset, and I'm very like like very expressive, I guess, and animated, which I think he liked about me. Like I was a lot of energy that he liked. So I think we balanced each other in that way. But now that I think about it, it's really hard to get to know someone who lives in a different state. Like we started dating and never were in the same place. Like I would fly to him, he would fly to me. So it was unique in that way. But there was a lot of gaslighting in that relationship. Like I would bring up I kept getting pulled back, like actually when I had told him I'm not okay with you dating someone, that's not what I'm looking for. I want to be in a monogamous relationship. And I would express myself like that. He would say things like, "You're acting like a bitch." And at the time I was like shocked because I've never had anyone talk to me in that way. And I remember calling my dad and crying. And I was like, "Daddy, this guy I'm dating said I'm acting like a bitch." And my dad was like, "Yeah, that's not someone that you want to be with, especially if it's this early, like, and he's talking to you like that. You need to cut him out." And then he would, you would think, I mean, now.
Don't be a cunt, Steph.
No, seriously.
Let me sleep with other people.
Me now would never accept that. I would be like, "Bye, never talk to me again." I would hope, at least I would do that. But he would, even he would say things like, "You're acting like a bitch." And I'd be like, "I can't believe you just called me a bitch. Like, seriously?" And then he would say, "It's not like I called you a bitch. I said you're acting like a bitch." It's so ridiculous. But I kept getting pulled back because I was so attached to him within that 1 month and it didn't feel real that he had a girlfriend because I never saw her. I never really saw any trace of her. It always just felt like we were in our little world when he was here, and we would cherish the time that we had together because we had so much fun. There was a lot of chemistry. There was a lot of like lust too. And I think that was really hard to break out of. But essentially what happened in that relationship was we kind of did this back and forth of like, "I don't want you to be dating someone. Like, I'm not okay with that long term, but I really like you and I'm like in love with you." And at the same time, he didn't want to let me go. And he was kind of like, "Oh yeah," kind of kept a lot of the details of the relationship under wraps. So it didn't feel real. Like it always felt like he was just the single guy with me. And that happened over a few months. I've never talked about this actually. Like only my close friends know. But I think it's important because now I honor my feelings a lot more. But throughout that relationship, I would basically tell him like, "I'm not okay with this." And he would always find some way to gaslight me. Like he would tell me, "You have borderline personality disorder," or "Are you on your period?" or "Is it the week before your period? Because you're acting really, like you're acting so emotional." And I was just like, "Of course I'm emotional because this isn't what I want. And you're not really listening. You're not understanding that like this isn't what I want and I can't continue this way. So yeah, I'm frustrated." But it would always come back to like, "Oh, you're just so emotionally volatile." But eventually I have no doubts that he loved me, but I think he was also very selfish. Eventually he ended things with that long-term girlfriend. I had found out later through my own investigation because girls find out everything. But that they were together for like 8 years.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And she was living with him. And I didn't know that because when I would visit him, like there'd be no trace of another girl. And when I would visit him, there's no trace of anything else. So I think she was living with him. And eventually I think they had broken up within like 6 months of us seeing each other. And with me and him, it was like very on and off. Like I wasn't seeing anyone else though. I was exclusive and loyal. And like I was just having fun with him when I would see him. And then eventually it became more serious. And then we dated for like 2.5 years. Within a year of our relationship, we were in San Francisco one time and one of my best friends sent me a screenshot of him on the same dating app that we met on. And I confronted him during lunch and I was like, "Hey, is there anything that you want to tell me?" He said, "What?" I said, Nothing at all." And then eventually I showed him the screenshot and he was like, oh, yeah, like that was a mistake. Like that won't happen again. And I said, why were you on a dating app when we're in a relationship? Like we were exclusive. He was my boyfriend. I was his girlfriend.
This was after he and his girlfriend broke up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he just said, oh, I don't know why I was on it. And I said, like, I was so hurt. I was so hurt. But I was like, okay, what am I going to do in this situation? Do I leave him? Like, or do I mean, I honestly, I should have left at that time, but everything else was so great. Like, he didn't really give me any reason other than what happened in the beginning to feel like he would follow through with something like that. But obviously, me looking back now, it's like those were all like red flags. But at the time, it didn't really. I wanted to show him like, hey, I'm not just going to abandon you. You made a mistake, but I think we have something special here. So I'm willing to give you another chance. And I'm not going to make like a huge deal out of it. Like you owe me throughout this entire relationship. So I kind of we had that thing happen. And then we had a lot of issues just, I think, with like jealousy. Like there was one time I posted a video of me pole dancing, taking a pole dancing class, and the instructor was spotting me with his forearms, not even like grabbing me with his arms, but he was spotting me with his forearms. And I guess he had shown his friend a video of me doing that, like on my story. And then he stopped talking to me for like a whole day. And I was like, what's wrong? And he was like, you let this guy like grab you. And I was like, he's my pole dance instructor. And he's spotting me, keeping me safe. I was like, what are you, like, why? He's like, yeah, it was just so like humiliating showing my friends that like, you're just like letting this guy touch you. And
I just want to chime in for people wondering about open relationships.
Yeah.
In a proper open relationship, that's something that should never really happen. In a truly proper open relationship, you love the other person as if they were yourself. So if you were getting help from somebody in that kind of situation and we were in a relationship, I would be happy and loving for you that you experienced that. And that's why the open relationship is open. It essentially is open. Is the biggest, I think the biggest foundation of a beautiful, open, spiritually open relationship is one where like everything that you really feel like you need to experience to your fulfillment, I love you for it and I grant you that permission, you know, or, you know, I put my jealous feelings aside and my possession aside because I want you to be a free soul. And then you do that for me in return. So any situations like this, like if someone is giving off those signals, normally that's like it's a red flag that any sort of situation like that, or even any kind of like open relationship probably isn't going to work.
Yeah. We weren't in an open relationship.
You weren't, but what I'm talking about is him.
Yeah.
Like
someone who
him saying that he was in an open relationship with
Yeah.
Sounds sounds fucking sketch.
I know. I mean, so yeah, we had issues like that, and there were just lots of like me expressing how I felt and then feeling dismissed. Like nothing I said was valid because I'm just emotional or whatever. And I think that really wore down on me. And eventually during COVID, I think right before COVID, I had suggested couples therapy because I got couples therapy sessions through work, which is a big perk. And so we started going to couples therapy because there was like, we would have these like explosive fights where I would like, I don't know, he'd lie to me or something. And then I would be like, okay, that's it. And then I'd pack my stuff and I'd try to leave. And I think some of that comes from seeing some of that in my family. So seeing that's how they dealt with things. And I knew that wasn't healthy either. So during couples therapy, the therapist was like, okay, your ex-boyfriend, don't lie. And then Stephenie, don't walk away. And I upheld my end. But right when we were thinking of breaking up and we were going to go have breakfast one morning. And when we were driving there, he plugged in his phone into the car and CarPlay came up and some girl's name popped up and it was an Asian girl's name. And I was like, who is that? And he's like, oh, it's just a coworker. And I was like, you don't talk to your coworkers outside of work. Who is that? And he was like, oh, she's from my wider team. And I was like, oh, what do you talk about? He's like, oh, small talk. And I said, you hate small talk. Like, who is that? Why are you like being weird about it? And while he was making up his excuses, I looked on LinkedIn and I found her, and she works at my company, not his company. And I was like, who is this? And he said, yeah, I lied. And my entire heart dropped. And I said, okay, let's talk about it. Don't lie to me anymore. Like, tell me everything. And I asked how they met, and he said he met on a dating app, the same dating app. So this is like probably, I don't know, 2 years in. So the first thing happened a year. Second thing happened 2 years.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And it was so disappointing. And even then, I was still willing to give him a chance and be transparent with me. And I said, okay, show me the conversations. And he said, well, what are you going to do if you see the conversations? I said, I don't know. We're just going to have to see what happens. But you have to be okay with whatever that is. And he wasn't willing to show me the conversations. And so I started crying hysterically. And I was like, I can't believe, like, even after all this time, like, I'm still giving you a chance to be transparent with me. And that's the only chance we have, is if you're transparent with me. And he wouldn't do it. So then I packed my stuff, I booked a flight back, and I left. And then he kind of came back, like trying to see me, crying, and all these things. And I also caved at some point, right? It's so emotional. It's like, I love this person, but they keep betraying me. And at some point, we tried again. And then I asked him, like, okay, during our break, were you on dating apps? And I was like, show me. So he showed me, and he screenshotted it and sent it to me. But what he didn't realize was that he screenshotted a date that was like back a few months when he wasn't supposed to be on dating apps. Like, it exposed him for being on dating apps way earlier than I thought he was. And so I think that was like the last straw for me. And because I was like, he cried to me, but yet there's so much more that I don't know. And there's no way that I can rebuild this trust. It's just completely eroded.
Yeah.
Even from the first month to the year to
Absolutely.
the 2 year, like, I've given it everything that I had. And for me, when I'm in a relationship, I try really, really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, if even my best isn't enough, I'm willing to let it go. So my roommate actually at the time told me, Steph, like, you're such a great girl. Like, I think you should, we were broken up at the time, and she was like, I think you should go out on a date. And so I was like, okay, okay, I'll go out on a date. And nothing happened with that guy. Like, we just walked around a park and we talked, but it was the first time in so long that I felt respected. Like, he was trying to get to know me. He was being really nice, being really kind. And I get it's a first date, but it was just so refreshing that someone was listening and like acknowledging how I felt. And I hadn't felt that way in a long time. So even though nothing happened with that, it was such a turning point for me, because I was like, wow, this is how I could feel. Yet in my relationship with this person that I love, I constantly feel belittled. I constantly feel dismissed, and like my feelings aren't valid, and just didn't feel good. So then I told him that I went on a date with someone when we were broken up, and I was like, I'm going to be transparent with you. I went on a date, and he's like, okay, I guess that's it then. And I was like, oh, okay. So you get to do all these things. Yet when we're broken up and I go on a date, then now it's over. So, yeah, that was it. Like, we never talked to each other after that. And then a year after we broke up, he wrote me a text wanting to meet up. 2 years after, he wrote me a longer text wanting to meet up. And I've just never felt the need to. That, like, when I think back on the memories, there are a lot of good memories, but there are also a lot of really bad memories. And I just can't believe that I allowed someone to treat me that way. But now I think because I've done all these things, right? Like I've prioritized my health. I have my shit together, and I'm surrounded by really good people. I'm not willing to accept anything less than that. So if someone makes me feel like, number one, my feelings are valid, or that, or they gaslight me into thinking that lying by omission is okay because they wanted to, I don't know, serve our relationship in some way. I see it so clearly now, and I'm not willing to accept anything less.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
That was a good story.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough. Like there was one time, there are a lot of times, but like one of the things that it actually happened pretty early on, we started doing Spartan races. And one time we were in LA doing a Spartan race, and it's like this 6-hour race where you're like, we're a team, like we're in it together, And we went to this hotel afterwards and did ice baths. And I was like, okay, you do your ice bath first, then I'll do mine, then we'll take hot showers. And I let him shower first in hot, like nice, hot shower after a 6-hour race. And I was washing his muddy shoes. And after his shower, it was my turn, but there was so much mud in the tub. And I was like, hey, can you like grab a bucket to scoop it out? And he's like, just like take a quick shower and let's go eat. And I was like, oh, but I kind of want to take like a nice hot shower after a long race like that. Like, can we just scoop out some of the icy, muddy water because it was clogged? And he was like, just hurry up. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, we've done this 6-hour race together. We're supposed to be a team here. And like, I let you shower first and I'm washing your dirty shoes. Like, the least you can do is kind of help me out too. So I was like upset. And then I just like locked the bathroom door and I started taking my shower. And then he knocked and he was like, hey, like my keys are in there. Open the door. And I said, you can wait. I'm going to be done soon. And he was like, open the door. Otherwise I'm going to call security. And I was like, okay, if he calls security, like it's over. And then he called security. And I paid for half of the hotel, but he made the reservation. So he exercised that power over me. And I was like, they came up. I was in my towel. He's like, oh, you better like wrap up because they're coming up. And so I like put my towels on. I was still wet and I came out and the security guard was like, is there a problem here? And I was like, just quiet. And I just started packing my stuff. And I left I booked my own hotel somewhere else and left. And I cried the whole night, like just feeling like feeling really betrayed, like you feel like you're a team, but then someone so quickly betrays you. And those are the experiences that I think about now, even though I don't think he's like this horrible person or anything, but definitely didn't treat me well. And I'm like, when I look back on it, I feel like I betrayed myself by allowing myself to be treated that way over and over again. But I think maybe I needed to experience that to respect myself and trust myself more now.
I think these experiences are super valuable for us, regardless of how painful they are.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't regret a single one of my own experiences. And probably one of the biggest things I learned from my last experience and my last relationship was if you plant a seed of trauma in your relationship and you don't heal from it once it's over, you're going to bring that into the next one as well. And even though our relationship was so beautiful and transparent, especially towards the end and even in the middle, in the beginning it wasn't. And that's because I was playing fuckboy for
you.
What
you
the fuck is Jesus Christ? Yeah, and even if you change your relationship from that and you go through therapy, and there is so much potential. There's so much beautiful potential, and we experience that. Things can be forgiven, but not forgotten. And if something like that somehow starts to appear like another possibility again, that traumatic memory is going to pop right back up in whoever it is that you incurred that trauma in. And it's going to be there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what I learned any relationship that I start it off good. Don't be a fucking fuckboy, because it could potentially ruin it. It could potentially cause some issues in it forever.
Yeah, it's hard.
Worth it.
Yeah, it's hard because you get emotional, and
it is hard, and a lot of people play like push and pull, and but I just think you just got to walk in with a step of faith and truly just be transparent from the beginning.
Yeah.
And act in love.
Yeah.
And if the other person doesn't reciprocate, maybe because they just want the push and pull and they want to feel the oxytocin and all the other shit, then it's probably not the person for you. You're probably just there for the chemistry in the meantime, but not necessarily for the commitment in the long term.
Yeah.
It's the person who sees you for the partner, not as the stimulation that is your partner.
Yeah. I think you definitely need to have not just chemistry, but compatibility. And I think like with me and my ex, like we had a lot of chemistry, but compatibility wise, like we didn't necessarily want the same things, but we wanted to stay together so badly because there is that chemistry. We were like, why wouldn't this work? But I think now I really value someone who can just embrace me for who I am already, instead of trying to fit into, like have them fit into my life or me fit into their life and have to drastically change. Like I would want it to just feel easy. And I also think it's really, really important. I think as you get closer to someone, it's easier to express yourself in more rough ways. But I think it's really important to be respectful, especially if you're, to someone that you really love. Because sometimes I think when you can feel close, especially, I don't know, in Asian families, you're just like brutally honest, or you say things that are like just tough to hear. But I think it's really important to be respectful and connect.
Especially in Asian families.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in Asian families.
For sure.
Yeah, because, in Asian families, I feel like, I love my parents separately too. Like they're not together now, but there's a lot of yelling and a lot of chaos. And I think some of that has made me have a really high tolerance for chaos, because we can go from yelling and fighting and saying all these things and kicking each other out and stuff like that to being super loving and recognizing that, even though there's a lot of chaos, we still love each other. And I think that because I went through a lot of that when I was younger, when I was with my ex-boyfriend, it just felt kind of normal. And I don't think it should be normal. Like now that's not something that I would accept. But I had to work through a lot of that. I would talk to a therapist. I have a life coach who helps me understand what my values are. So it's a lot more clear, like what I'm willing and not willing to accept. But I think when you're younger, you're just figuring all of that out. Like experiences are happening to you. And then you're like, why am I feeling this way? And if you have enough awareness and enough curiosity, you'll go and figure out why you feel that way and like try to heal yourself.
It's clear that through all this that you definitely learned how to do things for yourself. Definitely. You made a lot of gains in all sorts of ways since then. So I think as terrible as an experience it was, all these experiences have built us to be the person that we are today. So I'm glad we are who we are today now. So I have so many more questions that I want to ask you, and I could literally talk about this topic for literally forever. But I got to cut it short because we're a little over time.
Oh, man.
I know.
Oh, man. Yeah. We didn't even get to talk about relationships, really.
I know.
My history.
I know. I wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
I could go forever.
Yeah.
But we're just going to have to talk about it in another podcast.
Okay.
Another time soon.
Yeah. I'm really curious. I know some of your experiences, but I'm curious to hear about kind of what your perspective is now and like what you see for yourself in the future.
My perspective now. Well, to be honest, the reason I laughed at you calling me a fuckboy is because I feel like I haven't done anything in the last.
No, I don't think you're a fuckboy. I could see how I've really just been extra occupied. Yeah. Haven't even had my fucking housewarming party. Yeah.
Because
I don't have time to be a fuckboy.
I don't have time to be a fuckboy right now. I usually don't. I don't. It's too time consuming. And
right.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it, bro.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it was that I learned that it wasn't worth it. What was worth it for me was the beautiful relationship. That was worth it.
Yeah.
Now that I'm here, and I'm not like you have sex, you have intercourse with people so many times, and some of those times may not be so spiritually connective or intimate, and it just doesn't feel the same after some time. And do you really want to spend all that time and effort just for something that actually doesn't end up fulfilling you in the long run? Yeah, I want a partner that I can live and die with, that like is my fucking life partner. You know, not just my relationship, not just intimacy, but I want someone that I can work and do career shit with and grow with, and we literally support each other in all fucking forms. Mind, body, soul, spirit, everything. That is the most sexy fucking feeling in the entire universe.
Yeah.
So for me right now, it's just focusing on myself, because I want to be in a place where I have the most valuable currency in life that I see is the most valuable currency, and that's time. And right now, I say I have a sufficient income, but I feel like I don't have any time. And so I don't think it's right for me to start a relationship with anybody when I don't have the time. I just don't think.
Yeah.
I think it's selfish of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm waiting until I finally get to that place.
Yeah.
I'm building up my career, my life to get to that place where I have some time to give to somebody that deserves it.
Yeah. I love that. What's enough time? Like, what's enough time? Like,
that's a hard one.
Having
That's a fucking hard one.
You know, like being flexible with your schedule, like not having to work a 9 to 5. You know what I mean? You don't work a 9 to 5, but like, what's enough?
I work a 9 to midnight.
Yeah, I know. You work even harder. I think you're also in like this building phase, which I think is really attractive for a guy, especially. I feel like, because, you know, women value ambition and a man's ability to provide. I mean, we can provide for ourselves, but also they value that in men. And I think when you prioritize that and you're not so caught up with like, you know, people's perception of you or whatever it is, it's really attractive because it means you have your priorities straight. Love that.
Thank you. No, I do agree with that for all men. And I do see that tends to happen too. I find that if I had the choice, it seems easier and I have a more array of options. But I don't have the time to. Yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, you seem to be on the same page as well. And I love that. And maybe some men don't, because we are in a society where women are now making more money than they ever have before. And this is causing a change in the hierarchy between men and women, of course, right? Now there's women that have a smaller pool of men, you know, they find sufficient, which is crazy.
This is so funny because I was just talking to sorry, you were going to say?
No, I know. Keep going.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I get asked all the time, why are you single? I'm like, how do I answer this question? I actually, I just...
It's because
why am I single, Nyle?
It's because you're awesome. It's because you're fucking awesome. You need an awesome dude. You need an awesome guy.
But why is it that the more a woman becomes a badass, the fewer options she has?
The more a guy... Well... I guess that's not true.
It's not necessarily true, but you know what I mean. Like,
right. I was going to say the more a guy becomes badass, but that's not true. It's not the less options he has. He has way more options, but he doesn't choose them, you know?
Right.
For women, it's like, unfortunately, it's just intimidating for a lot of men that can't accept that, you know? Yeah. It's harder. It's harder for a man to not be the dominant one, take control and do the supporting.
Yeah.
But if you can, then that's fucking great. Great for you, man. Like, cause that happens too. And then honestly, I would love to have a woman just
sugar mama.
Sugar mommy me. I'm chill with that, man. I'm cool with that. But I don't know.
Yeah. Cause you're secure. Somewhere. Yeah. But I think it's interesting because, like, I think when you do have a lot of things going on, like, people think, oh, she must have so many people hitting her up. Like, I'd never stand a chance or whatever. But yeah, it is hard for me to find people attractive because I want to be able to admire someone that I'm with.
Mm.
But I don't want to be the more dominant one, if that makes sense. Because I feel like I'm very alpha and ambitious and on top of my shit in everything else that I do, that I really just want to be feminine and taken care of. And
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know. Like that is hard to find, but I think it's also, people just assume that, oh, I'm probably talking to someone or I must have all these options lined up, but the options are never the ones that you would want to approach you. You know what I mean? Like the guys who are focused on their goals, who are getting after it, they're not sliding through the DMs. Are you sliding in DMs?
No, it's one of the time. I wish I could say it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I literally told one of my friends the other week, bro, I wish I knew how to slide into DMs like you, and I wish I had the motivation to, because I don't know, but you're doing well for yourself.
He's got them all lined up. He's got a roster.
Yeah, I'm just not about it.
Yeah.
Not about it right now.
Yeah, but because you have your priorities straight, you know, and like you're on top of it, and that's. What, you don't think so? I
do think so, but there's a little bit of a feeling in my mind that feels that that's a little bit debatable, in where sometimes I see myself as like, how much time do I really have to find that partner? And maybe I should continue to put myself out in that space, because if you're not putting yourself out in that space to be even found, you're not going to find the partner. You're not. You can't just sit in your house all day and suddenly the partner comes to you. You know what I mean? The universe doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You must meet it in the middle.
Yeah.
And right now I'm not really meeting it in the middle.
You're like, I'm just not gonna, I don't have time for this. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I think if I really want to have a partner, then I should be putting in a little bit more work into it. But I guess I just have a lot on my plate right now. A lot of things that I want. I have a lot of things that I want right now.
It's important, not urgent for you. You know, there's something called approach avoidance conflict. Have you heard of that?
Approach avoidance conflict.
Yeah.
Is that just like not approaching someone because you're scared?
Basically, yeah. Approach avoidance conflict means like the approach is whatever goal you want to achieve. That can be losing weight. It could be dating someone and finding a life partner. So let's say that's your goal. But the avoidance is any hesitations you have around pursuing that goal. Like, oh, I don't want to have to get ready for all these dates. I don't want to have to go to the gym and work out, you know, all the hesitations. And that conflict is kind of the struggle between the two, like wanting to do something but having hesitations. So in dating, one of the reasons I got back on dating apps, and because I was kind of against them for a few months, because I was like, it's not going to work anyway. You know, I met my ex-boyfriend and that didn't work out well. But one of the reasons I got back on is because I realized that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you want to achieve something, like let's say, oh, I want to find a life partner, but I'm like, oh, but I'm probably not going to meet them on there anyway, or it's probably not going to work out, or it's just going to take so much time. And then I decide not to put myself out there, then yeah, I'm going to stay single because I'm not meeting people unless you are lucky and meet someone organically. But you could do that and still put yourself out there. And so what I realized was I had this approach avoidance conflict where I wanted something, but I would stop myself from doing it in fear of it not working out. But that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I put myself in this place where, because my best friends that I lived with and that passed away were really great role models for me. These were people that went out of their way to do things that they wanted, and they went out of their way to help people literally at any point, any time of the day, every single day of the week, every day of the year. They would also go out of the way to do everything they ever wanted to do in life. To be honest with you, that's a big reason why they passed. But when I look back at their life, they lived a crazy life, a crazy life. And even through a lot of trauma and pain, my boy Ryan lived his life to the fucking fullest. They both did. For me, sometimes I'm wondering, like, I could live life a lot more fun right now, you know, even if it's as short as theirs is, as long as I'm like living it, helping other people and enjoying it at the same time. I mean, it's a good life, I think.
Please don't die early.
I'm not going to die early. But what I'm getting into is because of them, like if there's anything I want to do, I make sure to do it. My problem right now is I don't know if I want to do it. Yeah. So I'm not really like scared of something not working out. It's more like I don't even know if I want that right now.
Maybe it's not
because
about
my plate's too full.
It's not about the time. It's just about what you want, like right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that I'm going to want something slightly different later on. Like, you know, when my career changes, when my life changes, my wants are probably going to change slowly as well. Yeah. And as I grow older, I find like my wants change as well. Like I'm not really, I grew out of fuckboy phase because I was in one for a really, really long time. Now I'm at an age where it's like, I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of different relationship dynamics. I've been through a lot of long-term relationships, 2 4-year relationships. At this point now, I know what serves me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You touched on something, which is like having sex with people and not getting that fulfillment because you don't have that emotional connection. I actually feel like giving or being intimate with someone who you don't have an emotional connection with makes me feel a lot more like empty, or I don't feel good afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's not even just like it's neutral, whatever. It's like I could have not done that. Like I would have rather been doing I would rather be doing anything else.
Right.
Because I don't like the feeling afterwards.
Right. I like to care about the person.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. I'm not gonna lie. That's
it's a shitty feeling, you know?
Yeah, it is. It's a shitty feeling.
Yeah.
That's why I find that like the people that I tend to have those kind of relationships with also tend to be people that I am either friends with or I become friends with, right? Like, so my ex and I consider her my best friend at the time. And I think I'm really happy that I get to do that because I don't think a lot of people can. So I just, want to care about him. Real quick, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say when we first met, remember we met at Bloom?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when we first met, I feel like you completely ignored me. Or you were just completely in your own world. You know? So it's kind of crazy that we're sitting here now.
It is crazy. I mean, I didn't ignore you. I was just, we were both occupied with 2 different things. We're just
what things? Okay. No, but I just remember like I just remember you, but there was no interaction.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah,
we really didn't have much interaction.
Yeah.
I just remember
oh gosh, what do you remember? I'm bracing myself.
Just was like hella complimenting your glutes and like saying, "Damn, look at her, she's so jacked and shit."
You or
no? One of her friends was complimenting like your body, and she was like, "You look so amazing," and then and then whatever, and then
that is so funny. I think that's when I first started working with Bret. Oh, my phone got stolen that time.
No way. That was when you first started?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, like I probably had trained with Bret for a few months at that
for a few months. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, we need to cut it.
Anyways, this is StephySquats on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Everything else? Awesome.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for watching again. It means the world. If you want to support me, please just rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And so I appreciate you guys again for watching. I couldn't be happier to do this because this is probably the most passionate thing that I have. And I'll see you guys next time.
Love that. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Peace, guys. Yeah.
Oh. Whoa.
All right. Peace, fam.
Wow.